Today on Extra Credit, we discuss the impact of poetry, meet and learn about poet laureates, discover a collection of poems written by Flint students, and visit a cool poetry competition in Lansing. Let's get started.
This program is made possible in part by the state of Michigan and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Some of us aren't here to make friends. Students sign their name to make it their own.
Really, this show is about hearing from us.
Hey, I'm Paige.
And I'm Brooke.
And this is Extra Credit,
a safe space for teens to have interesting conversations and explore new ideas.
So Brooke, what are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to go on an adventure through Michigan's world of poetry.
What about poetry?
Well, I'm going to show you guys what happened on my trip to Lansing and how it was like to watch the Poetry Out Loud competition. What is Poetry Out Loud?
Poetry Out Loud is actually a national program that's put on by the National Endowment for the Arts. And here in Michigan, it is a statewide poetry curriculum program that we do in high schools all over Michigan, where students learn poetry skills, they work with workshop leaders throughout the year, and then they come together in a school championship, and then their winner of their school championship gets to come here to Lansing to compete in the state championships. And then our state champion will get to go to Washington, D.C. to compete against all of the other Poetry Out Loud state champions. And there's college scholarship opportunities with this. So in a nutshell, that's kind of, what the program is at a state and national level.
So how have students changed after participating in Poetry Out Loud?
Sure, so we hear from students a lot that they leave this experience feeling more confident speaking in front of public audiences. They feel more confident in pursuing creative endeavors. I think there's a lot of skills that are built through this program. One, it takes a whole lot of courage to do this. You're standing up in front of people, you've memorized 3 poems, and you have to perform it. And then, there also is learning how to work with others at your school, at the state competition, and I think that just really instills a level of, confidence and perseverance that you might not get in other experiences.
Forward the light brigade, charge for the guns, he said. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the light brigade! Was there a man dismayed? Not though the soldier knew.
What, are you expecting from the competition?
I'm mostly just expecting to watch some good recitations. As far as myself, I'm expecting a few mistakes, but I think it'll be really fun. It'll be a really great opportunity.
You had to put a lot of hard work into this, and so what have you kind of learned about poetry?
A lot about how much your interpretation of the poetry can come out and how you read it and how important it is for you to understand what you're reading to give the best performance, I think is what I've really learned.
How did you feel about the competition so far?
It's great. It's really inspiring. This is the 8th year that my school has sent a champion, but it's the 2nd year that I've been able to bring all my kids, and it's super inspiring for them.
What's your history of poetry?
So I'm a poet myself, so I'm partial to this event. But as a teacher, I love teaching poetry. First of all, it's an essential part of communicating between humans, right? From ancient times all the way to the present, transferring emotion, transferring ideas. A teacher of mine once told me poetry isn't about life, it is life.
How did you prepare for Poetry Out Loud?
Memorizing a lot, reciting a lot. I worked with one of my teachers from school, and we just did them over and over again and just really dug into every poem and stripped back down to the meaning and what it meant to me and my relationships with the text, and really just dug into everything in order to get really close with it.
That sounds so interesting. Would you have signed up to be in a competition like that?
If I knew what I knew back then, and I was still in high school, yes, I would have. Because a lot of the students that were there weren't like diehard to become poets. So it's really open for anyone to participate, anyone from any background with any experience. You can have no experience, no history, little to no knowledge about poetry, but go in feeling welcomed and comfortable enough to be able to recite the poem with other students. And so to be with a lot of other high school students from all around the state coming to recite poems, some of them the same as each other, similar, and to recite them and welcome and befriend each other and to be in the same space. Like, I personally would have loved to do that, just to be able to go do that and again experience and to open a new door for myself, you know, to be able to travel and win stuff. I mean, make friends, you know, why not? Why not?
It does sound really fun to do, honestly.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it would have been like that. But yeah, kudos to all the students that participated and were able to go.
Yeah, and congratulations to the winner.
Congratulations to the winner. Yeah, they did such a good job. They all performed really well. Some of them had like a stronger suit in reading. Some of them had a stronger suit in acting. And so you saw like all of their skills come together when rehearsing these poems in front of a crowd. Like, I would have gotten stage fright and forgot the whole poem. I don't know how they did it. They are stronger than me. It's like, I would say it's like memorizing a script and being able to like act it out too. Like read it how you, like read it how you interpret it to become the character. Yeah.
That was a beautiful statement.
Thank you, thank you.
National Poetry Month was established by the Academy of American Poets in April 1996. It aims to raise awareness of poetry's cultural significance, encourage participation in poetry-related activities, and highlight diverse voices within the poetic community. The month-long observance includes events such as poetry readings, writing workshops, lectures, and performances nationwide. Activities foster a deeper appreciation for poetry and its impact on society. Overall, National Poetry Month celebrates the beauty, power, and significance of poetry in our lives.
Many communities and organizations uphold Poets Laureate during National Poetry Month. These poets often organize activities that promote poetry, like hosting poetry readings, offering workshops, and advocating for the arts. They may also write poems for special occasions or address social and cultural issues. A Poet Laureate uses their platform to influence and inspire creativity, help foster a deeper appreciation for literature, and celebrate the power of poetry.
My name is Masaki Takahashi. I'm the current Poet Laureate of Lansing, Michigan. I am the city-appointed Poet Laureate. I like to spread poetry around the city. I run a lot of workshops within the public school systems, and I host a lot of events. The things I did before I was Poet Laureate and the things I did during and the things I am doing after are the same thing though, because I just love what I do. The Poetry Room is an open mic that I turned into a nonprofit. The mission of it is to hold space for people of color. I like to have us share stories, work on our craft. It doesn't mean just for people of color, but that is something that I wanted to really hold space for, especially. Historically, the people who have been marginalized do not get to tell their story, and somebody else tells their story for them. So this is a space that we learn to better our craft and sharpen ourselves to tell our stories. Butcher My Name was birthed from constantly hearing somebody go, sorry to butcher your name, and then I was like, I gotta flip that somehow, butcher my name. And it was something that I think a lot of people may have gone through this, in the sense of, I am introducing my culture. I never changed my name for anybody because it was introducing my culture to people, and I made sure to correct people. I never Americanized my name because it was just the one I had to fight for, and that was the history of my name, and that's why it was so important to me. As a child, I did struggle with my own identity. Being Asian American, often I didn't belong in any type of group because there wasn't many of us. I didn't feel as though I fit any kind of stereotype or I had to be this certain way. I was just very much myself, and that was the only way that I learned how to be. Often I was more drawn into hip hop, and those were the kids that I hung out with just because we had that commonality. So it usually ended up being more people of color that I hung out with, and I noticed that every one of them was fighting for their own identity as well in a city that was primarily white. When I was younger and when I started writing, it was because of rap, hip hop, rap battles in particular. When I was 15, 16 years old, I saw Freestyle Friday on BET, where MC Jin becomes the first Asian American rapper to be signed to a major record label, which was Rough Riders. That inspired me to really defend myself, and all the times I was teased for being Asian American, to fire back and to stand for myself and to be proud, very proud of who I am and my culture. I hope that you are proud of being who you are. It's very hard to be a young person. I know I can't imagine going through that time again, but it also was very informative in who I was and being prideful of who I am. Sometimes it's hard, but I'm thankful for everything that I go through because it made me exactly who I am and gave me the stories to tell, and it became that much more powerful. As the meat clerk yells out, "Order up for Makishi, Miyaki, Masago." Is it you? It's Masaki, actually. I think to myself after I correct the pronunciation of my name, where do they get these other letters from? Like Miyaki, really? And why is this person chuckling? Maybe I too should find the irony. Hilarious if I wasn't so annoyed waiting for my order in this deli as the cashier apologizes for butchering my name. At this point, I'm used to it. My name is the fat that holds the flavor of my homeland, but still too much umami for this country's taste. So when it's being chopped down by a meat cleaver mouth, I correct them because my name is a proud wave of a tattered flag. It is my address. You could tell where I'm from. They say a name does not define you, but mine, it gives me definition. My name is Masaki Takahashi. It is the pride of my mother. It is the only remnants of my father I have left. My name means high bridge fortune tree, as if my parents were prophets, knowing of the troubled waters I'd have to encounter while still trying to stay rooted in this life. My name does not mean roadkill to the lead foot lips speeding too fast to notice the syllables they ran over. It is not a carcass for these vultures to pick at. I could remember always having to fight for this name. Schoolyard bullies hunting me like dead meat. Kids who heard my name and turned the jungle gym into a kill case who wouldn't let me play on the swing, so I had to learn how to swing. Busted lip, black eyes, swollen fist. I have bled for this name. This name will not submit to the slaughterhouse sensibility, will not be anglicized for resumes or changed for anyone's convenience. It is not appropriate to cut down into perfect model minority pieces for their charcuterie spread acceptance. My name, it is Masaki. And I would much rather starve than allow anyone to just butcher my name.
In 2023, award-winning poet Nandi Comer was selected as Michigan's Poet Laureate.
In praise of more important things, praise brown legs and tan palms. Praise the audacity of kindness and hope and goodness. Praise the sacred basement sweat and rub, the weight of an overloaded family reunion cookout plate. Praise every smack and licked finger. Praise the skillet, crock pot, and baking pan soiled and piled up in every Labor Day kitchen sink. Praise the hands that will clean them. Praise the morning dweller in her lake cottage, recording all our unimportant things. Praise her eyes and her hand and her pen.
She is the first poet to have this title since 1959. A graduate of Communications and Media Arts High School in Detroit, She also earned bachelor's degrees in English and Spanish from the University of Michigan and holds master's degrees in African American literature and poetry from Indiana University. As Michigan's Poet Laureate, Nandi travels throughout the state as an ambassador for the art form of poetry, teaching workshops, hosting events, and helping others craft their unique stories through poetry.
I was able to have an experience with Nandi. She hosted a workshop the Friday of the event.
Oh, really? How was it?
It was fun. I got to meet a lot of the students that were actually going to participate in the competition. I did not know I was writing poems with the competitors.
Wow.
So we all sat in a circle, and so she taught us new ways to like see poetry, understand poetry, and look for like the senses within the poetry. And we went into writing our own poems. We did this sensory exercise where we went back to find a memory and we explored the senses of that surrounding area. Like, how did it feel? What were we tasting if we were eating? Where were we? Who was around us? Like, what did we hear, taste, smell, feel? All that stuff, see? So we went through that and we opened our eyes and wrote the poems. And a lot of us shared our poems. And the more we shared, the more people were feeling confident enough. Like, they let a lot of people go and were able to read. And so that was great. I read my poem, and I think it was a good experience. Like, mine was very vague, but I got to talk about what I wanted to talk about and get something off of my chest, even though nobody knew exactly or explicitly what I was talking about. So it was a really great exercise, a really great workshop to find a new way to explore, journal, and express yourself. Even if nobody else understands, you understand. You wrote it and you know. It can be as personal as you want it to be and as vague or as explicit as you want it to be.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
Ciatta Tucker is the program director of the Ypsi Youth Poet Laureate program. Ciatta was also a member of a local youth arts activism program called Staying Power. In 2019, she won the Ann Arbor Ypsi Youth Poetry Slam competition, and in 2020, she was the runner-up in the Ann Arbor Poet Laureate competition.
Could you tell us about the Ypsi Youth Poet Laureate program?
The Ypsi Youth Poet Laureate program is a program that got approved through the Ypsi City Council. We never had one in Ypsi. It was always just like Ann Arbor, or we would like co-ops like Ann Arbor, Ypsi Youth Poet Laureate competition. A lot of people who like saw me do poetry when I was growing up like helped recommended that to be approved to the City Council. So our budget got approved and we launched our applications in September. We had them submit about like 3 to 5 poems that they think are really strong and that they like. And me and my co-program director, who is Molly Rayner, we look through those and we have like a cohort of judges look through those also, and we go by a rubric to judge those poetry submissions, and then we choose a winner from who gets the highest score, and Ruth happened to get that score.
Oh, congratulations to Ruth.
Yeah, she's pretty cool.
What are some of the characteristics that you are looking for when choosing a winner?
Usually we look for imagery. I think imagery is very important when it comes to poetry, so we can like see like the scenery of what you're writing about. I feel like that's super important. Like, do you have emotion in the poem? Are you explaining a story? Is there storytelling? Things like that.
And how do you encourage people that aren't able to get into the program?
For people who weren't able to get into the program, I would encourage them to keep writing and like keep making their poetry stronger, and to not like get discouraged by that, and to like just keep writing and getting stronger. We have a Youth Poetry Ambassador Squad, which is what we call it. It's for the youth who happen to score to be like runner-ups. So like people who scored 2nd, 3rd, 4th like in the competition, we have them on board and we do like monthly workshops with them to help perfect their craft. So yeah, we do have a extra group.
What does poetry mean to you?
Poetry means a lot of things. I think it means like a expressive outlet. It also could be some type of therapeutic, and it's also like just a hobby that you could do. And for me, I think it really pushes my like creative endeavors to like a whole new limit. Like, I've done so many things that I wouldn't imagine myself doing because of poetry.
What are some of those things?
Back in 2019, I was a part of Staying Power, and we had an opportunity to go to San Francisco. And with that trip, we had like a sort of cultural exchange with a different nonprofit with teens. And we kind of saw how their neighborhood was, where they grew up, and then they came over to Ypsi and they saw how we grew up in our neighborhood. So I never had anything like that before, and I thought that was a really cool experience.
Thank you for coming today. We really appreciate you having this interview with us.
Thanks for having me.
The UP Poet Laureate and Bartley Siegel came into our class to do sort of a poetry writing workshop. We talked about drawing inspiration from nature and from sort of where we grew up, growing up in the UP. So that was sort of the basis of my poem, my inspiration. I remembered thunderstorms were always my favorite part of summer as a kid, and sharing that with my younger sister. So that was kind of where the idea came from, and it grew from there. Thunderstorm. We stand barefoot in the mud, watching the water purl off telephone wires and eaves, wind shaking droplets of rain from the leaves above us. I am 12 and she is 8, her face a younger copy of mine, but with bluer eyes, softer. She asks if rain is just God crying. I tell her thunder is just angels bowling, nothing to fear. I tell her, come on, let's go inside, the lightning started. I tell her to look, and we press our noses against the glass to watch the storm. Our hair wet, giggling. We laugh because the world cannot hurt us here, not in the safety of our thunderstorm.
I really enjoyed the poem. I like the part when she says it's just angels bowling, don't worry, to
Yeah.
reassure that her little sister, right?
I think so.
To ensure that her little sister, that like she wouldn't be scared of the thunder, and that's
Yeah.
something that they both can enjoy together.
I was told that before too, that it was God crying or angels bowling. Like that's a common statement, and it's to hear it in a poem from somebody else. Like a lot of us do hear the same things, and it's different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I love that they changed something that could be so scary into like a fun time, like fun events that they used to have with a sibling or a friend. You know, instead of it just being a scary thunderstorm, they go out to play. Like, I think that's awesome as long as they don't get sick. Flint Mural Poems is a collection of poems written by students at Carmen Ainsworth High School at the Flint Public Art Project. The project not only beautifies the city, but also serves as a platform for storytelling and cultural exchange. The poems often touch on topics such as identity, social justice, and environmental stewardship. The connection of murals and poetry helps spark important conversations and inspires positive change.
We had an assignment in class for the mural project. I've always seen it as I drive past it every day for work, and I've always thought this mural was very pretty, and I wanted to write the poem for the class about this mural. When I wrote the poem, I was in a very dark space, and this mural helped me realize that it's okay, and I could be just like the mural and be as colorful and as poppy and however I want, no matter what I do. In the alleyway, I remember the stories my grandmother would tell me of trees so high you could not see the sun, the sky so dark you could see stars for miles. Little one, be careful of the monsters on 2 legs, she would warn. I listened. My friends never heeded the warning, and now they sit in this alley. My mother told me stories her mother told her, of trees so high we could not fly to the full height. Now I tell my children of the stone forest and invisible walls. Be careful of the stone forest. Most listened, others didn't. Now they sit in this alley. I remember as a kid when I played with my siblings, always remembering my parents' words. Don't get too close to the stone forest. I always listened, but the forest I called home got smaller and smaller. I needed supplies, so I ventured into the stone forest. Now I sit in this alley. I remember each of you, my children. Your home's getting smaller and smaller by my other children. The stone forest becomes your resting place, where I will keep watch of you until the end of time. The smell of life stays with you, as I watch in this alley with you.
Today we were able to hear a lot of different poems and a lot of discussions about poems.
Mhm.
I liked a lot of the poems because they weren't just talking, they weren't just reading. Like, they got really intimate and they were really intentional with their words. Like, it's more than just the words, it's something to dissect, understand, you know, and for other people to listen to, not just hear, but to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite poem you heard today?
I don't think I do. I'd have to get a paper and like read over them again, but I can understand why they're all important.
Mhm.
And I see the beauty in each of them, but I can't say I have a favorite right now. Do you have a favorite?
I do. It's Thunderstorm because that ate.
Why is it your favorite?
Because it turned something so like scary to people into something like, as a sibling bonding experience, to something
Right.
beautiful. So I think that's like something like that was beautiful. It was just beautiful. But each and every one of them were beautiful in their own way.
Learning how to make and creating poems can be so fun and become a new form of self-expression. Why not try creating a poem today? Until next time.
This program is made possible in part by the state of Michigan and by viewers like you. Thank you.